Welcome everybody to the Matty Making Music Podcast. It's our first one, and we're very excited to have a really special guest. He's been a friend of mine for years at this point, but also he's been my music production partner for also years. Guys, big welcome to my podcast guest, I guess, right? Podcast guest, Shaun Day.
Yo,
what's up, Shaun?
What's up, guys? What's up?
I'm gonna bring the music down. We're gonna do that.
Hello.
There we go. Oh man, Shawnee, how we doing, buddy?
Good. I just came straight from work. I'm currently, if you guys are watching, I'm currently feeding Penelope.
Oh yeah,
7-month-old baby. She's just chilling in my lap right now. But
very sneaky, getting her in the out of the picture.
Yeah, she's hungry for sure. She is going down on this bottle. So we are. It was kind of tight. So I was like, oh, I got to feed her. Just don't want her to be fussy while we're recording and everything. But she is growing, man. It's so crazy how fast, within these 7 months, how much time or how much kind of progress happens with a newborn. So yeah.
Well, thank you a lot for squeezing in on the podcast. We do this all the time. Actually, we're always on Zoom, and we're always doing the Sonic Writers stream, which is on Thursdays at the Sonic Writers right here on Twitch. So
yes.
So make sure you catch us doing that. We do music production stuff. It's a blast. But we are here.
We're here, guys.
We talked about this last week. The full rebrand of the Matty Making Music branding. We got the new logo. We've been doing streams. I've been posting reels, and then the final piece of the puzzle for the entire rebrand has been the podcast. And I'm gonna bring different guests on every week. You're the first. I asked you to be the first guest, and
thank you,
because I figure at least we could test it out and things go terribly wrong. It's a wash, and then it wouldn't be a super waste here, because right after this we're going to jump into some music stuff, although it sounds like you might grab lunch, so we might let you do a lunch thing before we get into anything else. But Shawnee, the reason I wanted to have a guest on the show is not to some podcasts you listen to and it's kind of there will be a bit of banter and stuff, but I would like the podcast to actually focus more on the people that I'm talking to, which would be you. So that's kind of the plan I have for the pod. And my thought is to kind of just start off just literally from the beginning of the very beginning. Where did you grow up, and how did you get into music, that sort of stuff?
Okay. Well, I grew up in San Francisco, the Bay Area. So I would consider myself, born and raised there, mostly in a sub-city called Daly City, where I went to school.
A lot of Filipinos there, right? In Daly City?
A lot of Filipinos, a lot of great Filipino restaurants as well, which I dearly miss very much. But yeah, I grew up there. And then as far as living here in Los Angeles, I think I've been here for more than 10 years now. So I would consider myself an LA native.
Right.
But yeah, growing up in San Francisco and Daly City, going to school out in Daly City, I remember, I had a lot of Filipino classmates. It was such a diverse upbringing, I feel, and I feel very lucky for experiencing that. But yeah, I went to school.
So you're Filipino, as far as who's your
my mom's side is Filipino,
right?
And then my dad's from a place called Sheffield, England, which is maybe 3 hours north of London.
Just for those listening, I already knew that, but I had to pose the question so he can.
No, it's good. It's good.
Just for the people in the chat and the people who are listening to the podcast. Yeah. So,
yeah.
In the Filipino, you have a sibling too, right?
Yes, I grew up. I got my brother Simon. We're 3 years apart. He's my younger brother, and he still lives up in San Francisco with my family, my mom and dad.
Gotcha. Okay.
And yeah, I mean, for the most part, I from my mom's side of the family, you know, I still have a lot of family up in some of them in the Bay Area, and actually some of them in Los Angeles. And then for the most part, my dad's side of the family, a lot of them are still in England. So funny enough, this next week, you know, I've been talking to Matty about this for like the whole, you know, last few months, but my cousins from England, Katie and Tom, and my uncle and aunt, and my other cousin Leighton, just a big family from on the England side is coming over here next week. So that's going to be really fun. And we're going to be doing Disneyland and all that stuff. So
you've been to England?
I have been to England. I technically was christened in England.
Oh, wow.
When I was like, I don't know how many months old. But I think I've been to England maybe 5 times, I think, over the last, you know, over my lifetime. Last time I went was in 2019, just before all the COVID closures and, you know, all the airplanes and traveling kind of shutting down.
And the Philippines?
Philippines only went once, but it was really nice that I got to meet my family. And I believe I went in, I think it was like 2006. So it's been quite a long time. So, you know, but, you know, I what's great about like social media and everything is I get to, you know, kind of follow my cousins out there, my cousins in England. So, you know, we get to keep up with each other on the social media, which is the best way to kind of, you know, see what's going on in the busy life. But I would love to go back to the Philippines. And from what I remember, it was a really interesting experience, very different place culturally. The same with England too, as well. So, but yeah, it's growing up in San Francisco was a lot of fun. I did go to like Catholic school, so it was like, you know,
there she is.
Yeah, well, this is Penelope. Yeah, I have to burp her because of her. She has to let some gas out if she burps. I wonder if we'll catch it on the microphone. She's got
a little scarf too, a little Tony the Tiger scarf.
Yeah, just to get the milk wiped up. But yeah, I mean that's kind of like my upbringing. Like both my parents were nurses when they moved here from my dad from England,
very Filipino, yeah,
very Filipino, right? And they both met at I think Seton Medical Center, which is one of the it's still there.
Is that in San Francisco?
Yeah. And funny enough, it was gonna get I think shut down a few years ago, and then I guess it just stayed open because of the pandemic and needing the hospital and to be active and everything. So yeah, it was kind of crazy. Like both my parents came from these two different places, and we growing up, it's kind of knowing, slowly learning like part of my mom's culture and then part of what my dad grew up into, and being a first generation American out here. My brother,
two immigrants. They're still immigrants when you really think about it.
Yeah, my mom I think is a U.S. citizen, and I think my dad is, but he has like the dual citizenship, so he has the two passports or whatever. And yeah, so it's always funny when I remember when we go to when we travel over there to England, we have to get into the non citizen immigrant line or whatever, because they're my dad still has his passport and his dual citizenship, so he goes straight through.
Oh, that's such a trap. So he's waiting for you guys on the other side of the the thing. That's funny.
Yeah.
So coming back to you growing up in do you need to put her down? Let her put her down. Coming back to you growing up in San Francisco, you did music, obviously. Did you do anything else? Did you do any sort of sports or other activities?
Yeah, I mean, in grade school, I was pretty active, as I was doing like soccer, basketball. I forgot what grade they started, kind of introduce sports to us, but I think it was like first grade or second grade. And yeah, I mean, I did a lot of soccer, I did a lot of, basketball. I even played soccer in high school for like the first 2 years.
Oh wow, I had no idea.
Yeah.
Were you any good or?
I was decent. I was a midfielder. Like that was kind of my position. So a lot of offense and defense.
Did your dad play soccer too?
My dad did play soccer.
Okay. Football is what they call it in Europe.
Football
right? Around the world.
And as far as I don't have any big teams I follow, but I guess coming from my dad in Sheffield, they have actually 2 teams that they have. They have Sheffield Wednesday and Sheffield United. Sheffield United is where the team that my family is favored. So I kind of grew up, knowing about that team, and anytime we had like my uncle visit, or they would always give us like jerseys from the
sick
Sheffield United and everything.
So did your dad play at a competitive level?
I don't think so. I think he just played for recreation, and I think it's such a cultural like sport, it's such a cultural thing over there. So even like that's just like kind of the sport to play. I think a lot of people out here, maybe people in America maybe associate like baseball or like football,
basketball, football. Those are kind of the big. Those are the big 3. Yeah.
Just kind of like just a kind of recreational kind of off games. If you go to the park or whatever. But it was it's a big thing over there for sure. Still is.
Of course, the World Cup just recently.
Yeah, especially Americans in our sports. It's the same. Obviously in Europe, it's been for decades, and so I think it's kind of a big part of growing up. Is I remember going to like soccer games. If they ever had like if we were in England, they would try to take if we caught them in the season, we'd try to go to like Sheffield United games. But then growing up. Being a San Francisco Bay Area guy, it was 49ers and the Giants. So I remember going to a lot of games with my dad and my brother.
That was before the big stadium in Santa Clara, right?
Levi Stadium.
That's the big stadium, but I'm guessing you went to the
Candlestick,
Candlestick Park, I'm trying to pull these names, but Candlestick Park,
and it's kind of crazy because where my family lives, growing up, we lived in a little area called Pacifica, which is kind of off the one. It's like on the coast, so it's right next to the ocean. And then we moved.
Nice.
We moved to South San Francisco. I remember it was like a Christmas Eve. We've lived there, I think in Pacifica for maybe, I don't know, maybe until I was like 6, maybe. And then we moved over to South City. Where was I getting at? Oh yeah, South City. So South City, where we lived, if you get on the freeway, the 101, if you just go a little bit up the ways, maybe even 3 or 4 minutes, you would see Candlestick Park. So it was right there.
Oh, it's right. So, man, you, if I recall, we went to your parents' house once.
Yeah, that's right.
It was just a stone's throw from the airport, and you could basically see San Francisco from basically your parents' house. Like you just go a little north, and that's like where San Francisco is. So you were in the city.
Yeah, it's a cool location because it's next to the airport. It's currently right now over the last few years, it's funny when I visit and I go up there. It's a huge biotech area because they've been developing a lot of the areas. Because my family lives like on San Bruno Mountain, so it's like a housing development on the mountain, and a lot of that area is being transformed to like offices for biotech companies, and a lot of condos and
Silicon Valley, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. Like it really is transforming over the years. And before when we moved to that house, I don't know how many years, 20 odd years or even more than that. There was like nothing really there. Kind of the traditional story of like, you're one of the first few neighborhoods there, and then all of a sudden, after a few years, things develop around you. But yeah, so growing up in South City, it's kind of funny because South City, it's its own little kind of town. There's a downtown South San Francisco. There's a couple schools and high schools around that area. But the funny thing is, I never went to any of those schools. I ended up in more of the heart of San Francisco.
Oh, that's kind of sick.
Yeah, and then I went to Daly City. I went to a school out there for grade school, so and middle school. So yeah, so it's kind of funny. So being out there and really kind of getting to know the different areas of San Francisco. It's not as large as Los Angeles, obviously, but
yeah. But the surrounding area, the Bay areas, I guess what they call it, is pretty big.
Because you got like East Bay, across the bridge, the Bay Bridge and everything. They have
Oakland, yeah. And then you have like the whole San Jose kind of area, Silicon Valley.
Yeah,
that's truly like Silicon Valley, right? That area. Yeah.
And not too far. I mean, for us, it's like 30 minutes.
Just south
or something like that. Yeah.
Mountain View, Cupertino. Those are like Google and Apple, and then
all the big tech companies.
All the big tech companies are based out there.
Still out
too.
there.
Yeah. Facebook is there. Drop the
Facebook. Yeah.
Drop the. It's cleaner.
Drop the Facebook.
It's cleaner. Thank you, Justin Timberlake.
Yes.
The biggest contribution to Facebook is Justin Timberlake.
Yes, with the names.
So rewinding back, you're young, you're in school. What got you interested into music? Was guitar your first instrument?
Yeah. So it's kind of interesting. I remember there was a music store called Duck Music Works in Daly City. There's an area in Daly City called Westlake. So it's another kind of sub part of it.
Right.
And that's where my best friend Joey, he grew up there.
Yeah, Joey.
In the heart of Daly City.
Joey just visited one of my streams earlier, actually.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So we grew up there and we went to the school there, and there's a Westlake shopping center, which was like a little shopping center there, pretty close to where Joey lived. And there was a place called Duck Music Works, and I mean, I think even now that I think of it, even before there was a music store in one of the malls, Serramonte Mall, in Daly City. And there was another music store there. And I think I remember seeing like this guy, I think he was maybe a guitar teacher or something. And he was playing like some Green Day or something like that. And I was just starting to listen to that type of music around that time. And
he had the time.
Yeah.
Green Day, Bay Area band, right?
Yeah. From Oakland.
Yeah, I'm from Oakland. So, there you go. I always thought they were British because of the way Billy Joe Armstrong would sing. I'd be like, wait, are they British? No, they're
I'm sure they take a lot of influence from British
like punk and
bands and everything like that. But I think from Serramonte Mall there was a music store there, so I kind of got interested in what music was, or guitar. I was listening to a lot of music. My dad grew up growing up from Sheffield. He grew up in the punk era in the 70s in England. So, a lot of the musical influence from my dad and stuff he played when we were growing up, and, being so young in the car and all that kind of stuff. And my dad also was a singer in his band called Sights Are.
Sights Are.
Sights Are. TSAR. I
did not even expect that to be the spelling. That's funny.
Yeah. And they were kind of, they were out, they were playing music, and, they obviously, they didn't get like as big, I think all of them kind of, separated and, to us, when they were kind of doing their careers and stuff, but they did make an impact. And I could say this, my dad is actually in a documentary.
Oh, really?
About the kind of music in Sheffield and some of the kind of bands that got influenced and sparked out of all the groups that were coming out at that time, especially during the punk era in the 70s, and then the kind of post, kind of punk era, with like new wave music and that kind of music coming out at the time. And then of course, Sheffield being kind of a hub for a lot of those bands, and, bands like the Arctic Monkeys, are known for coming out of there. Def Leppard, Human League, a lot of those groups were very influential at certain times, in the 80s and 70s.
So it's safe to say music is in the blood.
Yeah. And then of course, my dad's, my grandpa, my on my dad's side, RIP to my grandpa. He was a jazz pianist. So
Right.
We have, that musical influence and background from my family, and
built in.
it's built in.
Yeah.
So of course, I got exposed to a lot of music growing up, coming from my dad. And then, I remember like listening to like Michael Jackson, and, I felt like my dad and even my mom too, they were really, they really liked the music from their time, but also they were really open and they explored a lot of the music that was out, at that time when I was growing up. So I remember like my dad playing me, I grew up as a 90s baby. So, like when Weezer came out with the Blue album, he bought the album on CD, played it in the car all the time.
What songs come from that record?
Oh man, that's what do you call it? The Buddy Holly song, Say It Ain't So. I mean,
goodness.
It's like all those hits, man. Surfer Wax America. I mean, there's tons of like good songs on that first record of theirs. And then like Nirvana and like, so my dad, was really, he really grasped a lot of the music that was, happening during that time I was growing up, and really exposed us to it. So maybe that was it. Maybe that's what got me interested in playing guitar, and, going back to Duck Music Works, which was the music store in Westlake.
Is Duck Music Works kind of prior to even like Guitar Center being really big and all that?
I feel like Guitar Center was around, I think, but it wasn't like maybe as
it wasn't the Walmart or Target
franchise out there.
Yeah, exactly.
But unfortunately, Duck Music Works isn't there anymore. But
probably
I remember
bought out by Guitar Center.
Probably, the decline of music stores, of course, over the years. But I remember it being, kind of a cool place to go. We would go and it wasn't a huge store, it had a few guitars on the wall. And I just remember, a few of the guitar teachers playing, kind of, jamming out in the, in the the kind of area where they're kind of demoing stuff. And I was listening to like Green Day and Blink-182.
The showroom, if you will.
The showroom.
The showroom.
Yes.
Yeah. The
floor, yeah. And I'm sure like, my dad probably caught on and was like, hey, maybe I should, get a guitar for you. And, or is there like an instrument? Are you interested in music, or maybe would having a liking for it? And I think just listening to those bands, I was like, yeah, I kind of want to like learn how to play music. So I picked up, I had a Squire, kind of one of those like Squire sets. So it came with the Squire guitar.
What you're talking about.
It was a cream kind of.
Oh, I was gonna ask what color. Cream. I had the exact same set, but it was cherry red.
Cherry red, man. Yeah.
I would run around the house wearing it, pretending to like shred, and I couldn't.
Oh, dude, we all did that. We all sat in front of the mirror and pretending to be rock stars. Especially those kind of early days when you weren't like, you were kind of getting there as far as like learning your first few chords. And
did that set come with a little with like a VHS of like how to get started?
I think it did. I don't know if it was a VHS. It had to be like some sort of instructional video, or like I guess at the time it would be a DVD.
Wow. I must be old. VHS, for those of our younger listeners, is, how we used to watch movies. So, now you just download it. Not even now, you stream it live.
Yeah.
And then before that, you had DVDs like discs.
And then you had like those. Laserdisc for a little bit. Laserdisc, gigantic discs.
You had to be like super rich to have a gigantic Laserdisc. So we had VHSs, which was like kind of like a magnetic tape that plays in a machine that you have to plug into the TV. But I learned how to play off of that VHS.
Yeah, dude. It's cool because I feel like I'm sure it's kind of the same concepts, like, how to hold, like, what are the parts of the guitar?
Totally.
How to hold the guitar.
Fundamental stuff.
Very fundamental. Yeah. And just enough to kind of get you started. So, like maybe even learn a few chords.
Learn the first chords, and that's basically it as far as playing. Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember kind of doing that, but there was a few instructors at Duck Music Works, and my dad was obviously eager to kind of like sign me up and be like, hey, if you need, I think it'd be cool to like, have someone teach you, because I think that's the best way to learn. And so, I met an instructor called Alan Hall. I actually funny enough, kind of reunited with him a few years ago. Just out, my dad. My dad's like, he's always good with this kind of stuff, but he found him on social media. I think we followed each other, and we ended up like meeting and just kind of having like a lunch together. And so Alan, he is like, man, he almost reminded me of like Wayne from Wayne's World. He's very, very cool, man. Like, just very chill, and he had like the long hair.
Excellent.
Long hair, excellent. And he was just so cool, man. Like, and he really, I think, did a good job not only introducing me to the concepts of playing guitar and music and like even scales and stuff, but he got
all the
really,
beginning stuff.
Yeah. And he got me really interested in just music, because he would, I learned, just like how I'm getting music from influence from my mom and dad, I got a lot of influence from Alan, from the kind of stuff he would show me. And he would take some of these concepts and be like, yo, I got this like AC/DC song that, I could, we're using this chord, A or whatever. And a
great way to learn. I like learning in the context of learning a song. Because
yeah.
As opposed to you just sitting there doing exercises, it's applicable almost instantly, where you learn a chord, A chord, right? A major chord. And you realize, oh, that's the chord they play in that AC/DC song. What song was that? Back to Black?
Yeah. And then I'm sure a lot, and then you kind of go from there, and and you're just like, wow, there's these things that I've learned, and it's like, oh yeah, like lots of artists and groups that I was listening to, it was like achievable. It was like, oh my God, like I can play like Weezer songs now. So Alan was, a huge influence as far as like teaching me those concepts, early on. And, that kind of sparked my brother to kind of find interest in music too.
Oh, cool.
And so my brother, and so this place, Duck Music Works, they also had other instructors for other instruments like drums and bass. And so it was really cool. It was kind of the, I know we say like Guitar Center and some, I guess, local music shops now, they do still offer those kind of things.
Guitar Center didn't do that for a while. They just sold, and then all of a sudden, they realized there was money to be made, and doing less. Why would
instruction? Yeah,
that's such a brilliant like business plan. It's like, yeah, here's your guitar, here's all the stuff you need. Also, we'll teach you how to play the guitar.
Yeah, come here, once a week, or
keeps people coming in, and then every time you come in, you're like, look at another guitar, or you're like, oh, I'm interested in drum. So smart, dude.
Yeah, man. So my brother ended up taking, my dad, my mom and dad ended up getting him like a little, I don't know what, like a small little Yamaha kit, or like a very, again, kind of a starter kit.
Right.
And my brother started taking drum lessons from this guy, Rob Tucker. And he was, I also have him on social media. So, we try to keep up and catch up and everything. And I'm sure he was a huge influence for my brother getting into music and learning, musical concepts, especially that early, because we're 3 years apart. And, I was learning guitar in like, maybe 6th or 7th grade, kind of middle school. And, my brother was, 3 years younger than me. So he was
younger. Wow.
He was even younger.
I didn't realize he started that young.
Yeah. So, it was kind of crazy because like, my brother, picked it up pretty quickly. And, I think he became known for being like the young kid drummer,
That's so funny.
So yeah. And then, that sparked, now talking to like my friends in grade school, and, my buddy Andrew, was playing bass. He wanted to learn how to play bass. And then, so we ended up eventually starting a band, because that's kind of where it leads. It's like, oh, I'm playing a bunch of music.
Do you think that was your dad's plan? He's like,
oh, for sure, dude.
They need a guitar player. They need a drummer.
Yeah. And, I
had more kids. If you guys had more brothers and sisters, they would also play.
Yeah. I mean, if my dad is, I'm sure my dad will listen to, I'm going to let him know to listen to the episode, but I owe a lot to, I know my mom had a lot of music, she influenced me with me. And my dad definitely, I think, was really eager to kind of plant the seed, I would say.
Right.
And so so we ended up I don't know, I'm still trying to think of how we kind of conceived the like let's just like jam together part, but
All right.
with my brother learning drums and me playing guitar, it kind of made sense that we would eventually kind of try to play like songs together, play music together.
Yeah.
So and then my buddy Andrew, we knew he played bass, and so that's how it usually starts, right? If you're doing it from like when you're in school, is you kind of know, hey, this guy plays bass, or this guy's
you become friends.
We're friends, and
especially
hey, man,
if you guys like the same music too.
Exactly. So we were
we should jam on these songs. Yeah, totally.
Heavy into Green Day, heavy into Blink-182, and those kind of groups that were popping off at that time, and so it started with that. We kind of learned some covers from Blink, and we eventually spawned the name Blind Issues, which is what we went under. I don't know. I'm still trying to remember how we came up with that name. And I'm sure, if Joey or Andrew listen to the episode, I'm sure they have a good, interesting story.
How did Joey get involved in the band?
So it's funny. So Andrew, myself, and Simon were blind. We're actually the original three.
I see.
Blind Issues. And it so happened that our kind of first performance was a talent show in seventh grade.
Love it.
And so that was kind of like the spawn of like, oh yeah, we should like try to like practice and like perform a song at school. And they had auditions and stuff. And I think
I'm afraid you're just too gosh darn loud.
Yeah.
Thank you,
I was just thinking about that.
Thank you, Huey Lewis.
I mean, I don't think the school ever had anything like that before. It's usually like kind of dances and maybe someone come up and sing like to a track, or
that's
kind of
just
do a cappella
just
thing.
for the listeners. That's a Back to the Future reference.
Oh, dude, still one of my top 5.
Marty McFly and his band auditioned for the school talent show, or the school Battle of the Bands.
Battle of the Bands,
and
y'all.
The one of the judges who was judging who's going to play in the Battle of the Bands is Huey Lewis.
Oh, it's such a good cameo
in like a terrible suit and like big. Like Coke bottle,
it's like the complete opposite of what Huey Lewis
totally
is, right? Yeah,
so funny.
But yeah, so we did this talent show. We ended up playing a song from Blink-182 off the Take Off Your Pants and Jacket album, which was called oh god, now I'm blanking on it. Oh, I'm terrible at this. So here's your holiday. I can't even remember it.
Oh yeah, I remember that song.
I can't believe I'm blanking on this right now.
Is that the one with the sexy nurse on the front of the cover?
It's the one with the I guess the traffic light.
Oh, okay.
Stay Together for the Kids. Sorry, I blanked on that for a little bit, but Stay Together for the Kids. So that was the song that I remember my brother Andrew and I just like, we only know so much music, so we just practiced that song like over and over and over again. And at the time I was kind of like singing, like lead singing, and Andrew and I would kind of switch off, and he would do like the chorus and
lead singer.
And so that's so we played that talent show, and it was crazy because my brother was like kind of the underdog. You
guys were doing the power trio thing for a bit.
Yeah, for that first year. And so we played the song, and of course a talent show with a band for like kind of the first time. I feel it was it was a hit. Like we and then of course our classmates were like, oh, that's so cool, like you guys are in a playing music in a group together. And then my brother being 3 years younger, it's like, oh my god, you're the
prodigy,
the young hotshot drummer. And at the time, like I think my brother, and I still think this in the end, even though my brother isn't doing like drums full time, I think my brother was the better musician, I think, out of all 4 of us,
that's
eventually.
insane.
Because he, especially with drums, he learned a lot of stuff. And we always called him the mini Travis Barker, because he did learn a lot of like the techniques and stuff from Travis Barker from Blink-182. And that guy's just a beast of a drummer.
Set up a rig for him to be able to drum upside down,
dude. I mean,
inverted.
That'd be super cool. But that's what's funny. It's like my brother like took after him a lot and was a huge influence for him. So he would set up his kit like Travis, with the one tom sometimes. He even eventually, I mean, this is later down the line, but he got his like signature sticks, the Travis Barker.
Oh, right.
Kind of with the white sticks. So So after that talent show that year, my buddy Joey, we were really close, and he started getting into the, same music. Obviously, he was listening to Blink and Nirvana and, Ramones and all these kind of groups. And I think he just, it kind of said, hey, I kind of want to learn guitar too. And he, saw that
he
it
wasn't playing guitar when you guys started learning guitar.
I'm trying to remember. I'm sure it's either he was or he wasn't, because I know we started kind of jamming like, a little after, and with Duck Music Works being in Westlake where he lived, he also took lessons from Alan at one point too. So, so it was kind of that, like, we were taking lessons from the same instructor. We, any chance we got to kind of hang out, we'd be talking about music or, what we're learning and, playing guitar and everything. So, and then it just kind of dawned on us, like, it'd be cool if like he joined the band. And I'm sure, like, I'm not the greatest at remembering, and these are so early on in our lives, but, I think it's just, we had the same interest in music. We wanted to play and jam together. And then it's kind of how the official Blind Issues band,
the original lineup now.
The original lineup there. And then Joey, of course, being, he started singing and, wanted to, to learn guitar and also be a singer, which, I think that's always hard too, is kind of learning your voice and how to do that. And then also learning an instrument, even though they're both instruments in some way or form, but like singing and playing guitar at the same time is always a challenge. So, so that's kind of like how we kind of birthed Blind Issues.
Did you guys write original songs together?
We did. So, I guess we played the next year we played another talent show. Of course, we wanted to return and play it. And we ended up playing another Blink-182 song, called Man Overboard. And that was, Joey, we were singing and, my brother, I think was, we were graduating that year. So, we're in 8th grade. So it was, we wanted to kind of go out with a bang. And then, at the same time, we started writing our own original music. So, our first song, was called I'm Mad.
Nice.
And it was a very basic riff.
How old were you guys at this time?
Probably, 7th grade. We had to be like, I don't know, like,
well,
I don't even know how old you are.
I think
11.
12. Yeah, 12? You go into freshman year about 14.
Yeah, just before your teenage years. So,
and then that means your brother was freaking 9.
Yeah, so he's really young.
That's crazy.
So we were writing. We wrote this song called I'm Mad, and I'm again playing it like 100 times after we, kind of wrote the song, but. That's obviously early stages of writing music, especially with other people. Like, and, it was from what I remember, a very collaborative effort. Like, we all kind of, hey, Joey came with this riff, and then, we would add on to it. I would figure out something to add to it. And then, we would say, what are the chords? And you kind of go through that whole motion of like learning a song together. And then my brother, of course, he was such a fast learner, so he would always kind of, quickly adapt and write
music prodigy.
Yeah, no, seriously, my brother was really good at, like, we give him an idea and he can, fairly easily put a groove to it. So, so that was kind of like the first song, and then we ended up writing a few songs, and then I think this happened before we graduated, but we recorded our first EP. We had 4. Let's see, 2, 3. Yeah, we had 4 songs, and then we had kind of like a cover song thrown in there. And that was our first recording experience. We recorded, again, I gotta say props to my dad, because I think he really supported us, and obviously my mom too. But my dad, being a musician, he really wanted to support us during our musical journey, I would say.
Right.
And so he wanted to give us the opportunity to record the songs we were writing. And so he, booked us studio time one day in the studio.
Oh, and you just recorded all 4 songs?
Yeah, one day at this place called Sisyphus Recording Studios in San Francisco, in the heart of San Francisco.
That's sick.
It was like an industrial building, and I remember taking like a freight elevator to get up to the area, and it was these two guys, this guy Jordan and Colin Fairburn, and I'm sure they probably like graduates from like recording school, like they just kind of put together their little studio, and it was a cool spot. It was like kind of like a it's like, industrial kind of building, and it was kind of like a loft. So they kind of converted this loft into like a studio. So they had like a live room.
I was gonna ask, what was the setup? They have a
little control room. I can't remember at the time what the console they had, but they had like an analog console. They had like a small little console, and then just a little kitchen with like a couch and a tiny TV.
What was the process for you guys? You had to record everything individually, or did you guys record the click? What was the deal?
It was multi-tracked, but I think since we had the time constraint of doing it in a day, I think we did like drums and bass at the start with kind of like a ghost guitar maybe in there and maybe vocal. So we, that I guess I could owe it up to this EP that we did. The Door Swings Open is what we called it.
Oh, sick name.
Yeah, it's a cool name, right? I'm trying to remember how we came up with it, but I owe it to that experience. I think being in the studio doing that EP, just learning about recording and like how do you record songs, and
that's cool. And that sparked
what's the process?
That sparked the engineer music production.
Yeah,
bug.
Kind of learning about the process, and I can't remember if Colin the engineer reached out to us before and kind of gave us like a kind of a list of like, hey, make sure you practice the songs and maybe have those. And I'm sure my dad kind of got us like in the routine of doing it, because he's been through it before. So kind of growing up and recording music too with his band and everything. Right. So but I remember learning about like multi-track recording, like you record live to some degree, and then the drums and bass you keep, and then you lay the other instruments on top, so it'd be like guitar and the vocals and everything. So I think that's how it went. I think we played like live, and then they kind of took the drums and the bass from that, but we had like we still had time to do like re-recording like the bass on certain parts, so the guitars.
They using Pro Tools, or what were they using?
It was like an early version of Pro Tools. That's the thing that's like crazy.
That's
it's
a
like,
trip.
Man, they were like on a pretty early
like
version.
An old Mac, like old. I mean, at the time it was probably a new Mac, but like
it was definitely before the obviously the era that we live in with there's just so much available to us as far as recording and producing. So it was a really cool experience, and I even got to learn like a few things from Colin and Jordan. As far as like how do you record guitars, like you put a microphone in front of the amplifier, and you stand in a different room or the same room, but you have headphones on to isolate the sound, and just like those concepts were so like, new, and we're just so used to hearing music just as it is on a CD or whatever cassette. So it was really educational and very fun, because we're just a bunch of kids. We felt like rock stars, obviously, because we're in the studio, and we have our little times. We take a break and we're like, cool, kind of talking about it and everything. So it was really really fun, and I think very integral to my interest in recording music and producing.
That's kind of where I want to go now. So you have that experience with the band. Did you end up doing kind of like a home studio setup when you were younger?
Not really. I mean, honestly, I think this, like the recording, even like in high school, like the recording music thing came way later. I knew I had an interest in like recording music, I would say. And then I guess kind of bouncing a little forward, in high school, I played trombone. I took trombone all 4 years of high school. So I still had that connection to music.
A great instrument.
Very fun instrument.
A great brass instrument. You could do.
And I had to learn about like intonation and tuning and reading bass clef, and so I got some more education on music. I played for the band at school, and then the kind of as you get further into high school, you kind of, you know, graduate to the marching band was like kind of the top level. Like if you're part of the marching band, you're it as far as like, you know, the music classes there. And my music teacher, Mr. Souza, was a, you know, I mean, a huge influence
as
on me
in
as far
sousaphone.
We always made that joke, which is funny, but it's
He was actually a clarinet player.
Yeah. So yeah, that's so I'm like just trying to calm down Penelope, but I guess just kind of finalizing with high school, it's it definitely taught me to play with a group, play with more musicians,
sure,
as an ensemble, to read music, and also kind of learn more about music, either if it's classical music or I remember we even played stuff like Star Wars, and kind of other composers like John Williams and all that kind of stuff. So that was very, I think, further into like my interest in music, and maybe kind of taking it a little bit further than guitar. And then I still took lessons, I think, for a little bit, and then at one point I was like doing a lot of that with the trombone, and and then learning by myself and all that kind of stuff. So, oh baby, I'm gonna have to pick her up. Oh, I'm so sorry.
She's getting fussy.
So yeah, that kind of really kickstarted music, and then I met a lot of people in high school that were interested in music, and I'm trying to remember where we're going with this, but I ended up.
Well, how about walk me through how you got into engineering production, Matt?
Yeah, so
how you started going in that direction, from not just playing but also that side.
Yeah, so I mean, it's outside of like the early experiences we were recording with the band, Blind Issues, and hi baby, and I kind of I would say I kind of owe it to a classmate of mine, and he was a year above me in high school. This guy Lucas Sealbol. And he was in the drum line. He was a band kid like I was. And I remember him talking about going to possibly going to college for like music recording. And I just did, I mean, when you're that young, you just you're not really sure, like, is this what I want to study, like, and college is on the forefront, and you're think about going to college, or if you want to go to college. And I wasn't sure yet what to really kind of gravitate towards, but I thought recording was interesting, and I love music, and I thought that was something that I would love to study. And I remember he graduated and ended up going to a place, Cal State Monterey Bay, and he went to the music program there, and they had a recording program there. And so I remember, I think I remember even chatting with him and just saying like, hey, that's kind of cool. One of my classmates from school went to this place, and I'm kind of getting interested in maybe like recording my own music, or like just getting into learning more of that side of it instead of kind of performing and playing. So I ended up eventually going to that school and kind of following him there. And we actually did hang out a lot that first year, because I didn't know anyone else. I think I was kind of the only one from my class that went to that area. But that's kind of it. It's kind of the early influences of recording, being in bands, learning how to play music, and I think the curiosity of just I don't know if at the time I was like, I want this to be a career, but I think it really sparked my interest, and I started to become more interested in. Especially when you see like, my dad would always play us like documentaries, like music documentaries on Sheffield, or, some bands that, we knew. And even Blink-182, they came out with like a series of videos during their self-titled album, and like when I was in high school. And it's like, oh, this is cool. They rented a house and like record their music.
Yeah, that's sick.
And, like, it's like, that's so cool, and I just found it more interesting as I got more into music. And I wanted to still be a performer, but I also wanted to become a creator. I wanted to kind of be a part of the process. And so that's probably where it came from, as far as getting into recording and everything. And then I went to Cal State Monterey Bay. spent, my time
What
there.
what did that curriculum look like at Monterey?
So it's interesting.
Did you have to take I remember I took like an acoustics class and some stuff like that. So
you have to so it's funny because it was a Cal State. So my first like 2 years were like GED and like, I would say the boring classes because it was.
Oh, you're talking about like taking math, English, so that sort of stuff.
The usual classes, and I that's a whole debate in itself.
Gen Ed is what we called it when I was in college. Gen Ed. Yeah. Okay.
There's a whole that's another conversation for another time on the kind of if you need to go to school to learn about music and recording and all that. But I did really enjoy my time there, and I learned a lot outside of those, just those first 2 years, meeting people. I think that was the kind of exciting part, was like the first 2 years. It's like you're taking a lot of general ed classes, but you're meeting people who are, going to be in the music program. Right. So you're kind of starting to befriend a bunch of people. And then of course there was a lot of, outside activities from school. There was like, we had like a little venue. It was called the BBC, funny enough.
Oh, that's funny.
The Black Box Cabaret, as they called it. And so, the school was pretty small. Mm-hmm. It was built on a old fort called Fort Ord, and it was still active. And I think it still is an active military fort.
Oh, that's crazy. I didn't know that.
So it was wild. When I went there, it was, it was like one of those, it was a really like new school. And so I think that's what was interesting. It was a small school. So I got to, meet a lot of people in the music programs or anywhere else. And so, there was that little community of musicians and people and everything. So,
right.
I just realized I have to change her diaper.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry. Oh no. But
so we'll take just a quick pause.
Just a quick one, yes.
Shaun can do that. I'll edit this for the actual audio podcast, but for you watching live, we'll go to the Be Right Back screen. So we'll be right back.
Be right back.
All right. I'm gonna pause the music, and we are back, baby.
We are back. Back in black.
See if I can get this music paused. I got to get a new Stream Deck. I use the mobile app to control my stuff for streams, and it's just lags every time. It's atrocious. Okay, we are back. The baby change situation has been averted.
Has been, yeah.
We've solved it. So Shawnee, I don't want to keep you much longer. So I was hoping you could tell me about post your kind of path post college and engineering school and stuff.
So so I did the music program at Cal State Monterey Bay. Learned a lot about concepts of recording, and I met a lot of great musicians and just a lot of great people to kind of collaborate with, and pretty much learned a lot of the recording stuff by just like jamming and like creating like bands within the classrooms.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Like, learning how to do that. But after I graduated, I kind of immediately was like, I moved back home to San Francisco for like a few months. And then I was like, I need to kind of like go out to Los Angeles. Cause I feel like, for the most part at that time, LA, New York, and, like Nashville, right, are kind of the main hubs for music. I don't know if that's true to these days, but at least, at that time.
I have a feeling that's changed because of the way we can record at home and send music back and forth to each other. I think that may have changed now a bit, but definitely the population of like-minded individuals, I think you can find still in those cities for collaborative, opportunities.
Yeah. And for the most part, a lot of recording studios, a lot of, the film industry, Hollywood and all that. But as far as post, I did a lot of stuff. I came down to LA I mean, I've been here for at least 10 years. It's got to be. But I'm lucky. I have some of my mom's side of the family. So, my cousin Christian,
Sure. Yeah.
I think he was interning at a studio at the time, or like knew someone who had a recording studio. And so I ended up kind of like, semi working there. Like I kind of just hung around there, and I really wanted to see if they were able to, hire me out or just put me there as an intern or whatever it is. So I did a lot of kind of bouncing around to different studios and kind of doing, I did take a few internships, and worked out of a few studios. This one place called Blue Road Studios, which we've worked through.
Sure. Yeah. North Hollywood.
In North Hollywood. I interned at this place called Firehouse Recording Studios in Pasadena, which was a really nice, kind of more state-of-the-art studio. It literally had its own server room, for like, their Pro Tools rig and everything. And they dealt with like a lot of different clients, in the film industry and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, I did a lot of different stuff, and that's kind of what I realized with the recording is, with learning about recording and, if you want to be a sound engineer, you have to kind of either work at a studio and kind of build your way up, or
is that how it is in the studio kind of game? You start as an intern and eventually
I don't know,
in-house guy.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the same nowadays. I know there's a lot of like, they have a lot of whatchamacallit, kind of unionized jobs where, I mean, that might be mostly for film and like post-production, but yeah, I mean, for the most part, even some of the like music docs I watched, with like, people in the, from, people producing like the Beatles and like, it's just, that's how it starts. You just kind of like are there and you just try to absorb as much as possible and learn something. You may not know too much about it, or you might come into it having a little idea about what recording is. And so I just did that. I just kind of bounced to different studios and
picking up knowledge.
I think it's tough to think that like, I think I've said this before, but there was one point I think in that journey that I decided I didn't want to be a sound engineer. I didn't want to continue being the guy behind the board, I would say. Even though I think, we do a lot of sound engineering at times, we kind of combine the roles with the sonic writers and producing. And I learned a lot of great skills, as far as like when we had to produce something and start getting into production, what that would be like, being able to record a drum kit or whatever it is, from school or from the local bands I recorded, just trying to practice and learn for free. So it was like, yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot of kind of soul searching in a way too, because I'm like, what I really want to do with like this music thing, because I knew getting out of college, it was that kind of game where you have to like intern somewhere, or you kind of have to, it's a network thing. You have to kind of build that relationship for the studio, or, meet other people and, kind of find your place in that field. So, yeah. So, I mean, after that, I mean, it's like, it was kind of like that, just doing a lot of interning and, I learned some great things. Some things I'm like, you know what? A studio is like kind of a crazy business. Cause like, you have to be, there, on call, or, you have to be available at like crazy hours. And so then that's probably why I kind of strayed away from being more focused on a sound engineer aspect of it. But I don't regret any of the experiences and the knowledge I got. I got a lot of great, education from that. And I think that's truly where I think people with, who maybe study music or, who either go to school for it, learn on the internet, whatever ways, is you just have to do it. You have to like, the 10,000 hour rule, whatever. Like, I really believe in that. Like, you have to like sit there and do it, be a sound engineer or intern and sit there and learn about like how to use a mixing board or whatever it is. And I know a lot has changed over the years with, kind of modern recording and how we kind of go about doing that. But yeah, so, I mean, from the post stuff, I don't know. I was, I think through, I guess before we met each other, I guess going through like, my ex-girlfriend at the time was working at Apple, and I was located in Pasadena, and then I ended up meeting you and our friend Kyler, and they were all you guys were all working at the Apple store.
Right.
And then of course we all bonded on music, because that was kind of the thing we were talking about, and it's like, oh, you play music, and do you record music, do you have any music I can listen to, and all that kind of stuff. And so that's kind of how all those relationships spawned. We've worked with Kyler on, we've released music with Kyler, and I think
we played in a band together.
Red Giants, and even some of the pre-Sonic Riders history. I think you released some music at the time under MattyMakinMusic, and then eventually you asked me to mix your record.
Yes,
which was kind of cool, because I was looking, I was like, hey, I need to, I want to, I want to get more into mixing and kind of stretching out the kind of skills that I had, not necessarily just recording people, also doing the post work, kind of mixing and learning about that process, and like meeting you guys, and just like hanging out all the time, and like music was our connection and thing, and that's where we kind of spawned our friendships from there.
Well, that's that idea of like-minded individuals, so that makes sense, especially for the move to LA. You're around people who have kind of similar interests and goals, so it makes
we're like
total sense.
And it's funny because like none of us were, I was probably a little bit closer, from San Francisco, but none of us were from Los Angeles, like for the most part. So
sure. Yeah.
We were all kind of planted back, we came from our respective places, and so I thought that was a connection that I felt, with you guys, obviously, and you too, Matty, like, not being from that area, and like really, getting to, kind of be in it, like, oh, we're here in Los Angeles.
Well, the record from Red Giant, the first record and only record we did, was called Transplants.
Yes,
which is a term for people who move here to LA who come from somewhere else. You're a transplant, So that is very much in the idea of what you're talking about.
Yeah, and then for the most part, I think we've talked in the past about the kind of birthing of the Sonic Riders, and as we got kind of closer, working together, and we were in the band together, and I think at one point, we were just talking about like, why don't we just like put some of our own music together, and that's kind of like how it spawned the Sonic Riders and our kind of production partnership, and it's kind of crazy to think like, we've been doing this for a few years, and just even starting with like, I know you showed me a lot of your music and the stuff you've been working on. And, I think
I would say at this point, it's probably about 7 years.
I think so, dude. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, yeah. So we've been doing this for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, even, and of course, and then we have our just people in the network of people we've just kind of met, or friends we met, like who are musicians, and, that's how it is with, you go to like open mics and all that kind of stuff. And, you meet some people, and, you were doing that pretty actively, kind of going out to open mics.
That's how I met, artists and clients to work with and stuff. It was, it was quite the time. So now we're more settled now into kind of a groove of just creating music and pitching for, sync and stuff. And once in a blue, we've been taking an artist or, to work on stuff, but it's been steady for us. We're very happy. We just placed a song recently. We just got we got to just, we're just focused on continuing. So with the Sonic Riders, this stage of your music career, how have you seen yourself grow?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, for both of us, coming from different musical backgrounds, and you went to Berkeley School of Music. You studied kind of more composition and is it vocal?
my instrument when I went in was as a vocalist. So when you
Vocalist,
audition,
right, yeah.
you audition as a whatever instrument. I auditioned as vocalist. I ended up falling into songwriting. That was kind of the path I ended up in. I actually was trying to get into the music engineering program. That didn't work out. But what ended up happening for me was it's kind of similar to what you were saying is after I graduated, I learned so much anyway that I learned a lot about engineering and production post school. A lot of what I learned in school was the music theory and songwriting techniques. That's what I learned a lot of in school, and then that transferred into how I produce music. And when I work with you, I learned a lot more about music engineering, mixing, that aspect as well. So it's a very similar path, but coming from the other direction.
Yeah, man.
I think,
and that's where I was going with it is I've learned so much from you as far as composition, arrangement, the way to approach songwriting, and I'm still learning. And I think with the Sonic Riders, we've really, obviously it's taken time to get us into this groove and like really find what our kind of focus is, and what we want to kind of dedicate our time to, with the production group. But it's cool. We've really
the workflow over the years has always been kind of adjusted and stuff. But I think we really got into a real solid workflow as the pandemic started, because we had to figure out a different way to create and produce music. So how you see us now doing the Zoom here over the internet, this is how we produce most of the time, because time is very tight. Shaun's got a family there now, and that makes it even tighter as far as scheduling and time. Hey baby,
he's back.
But that is as a partnership, that's something we've had to work out and figure out. And I feel like we're at a high level as far as just kind of knowing each other's thoughts on stuff and moves on what we want to do with songs. And it even just the other day yesterday when we were working on that track, it was like I opened it up, laid down some stuff, did that part, checked with you were cool, sent it to you, we kind of arranged it out and got back and forth, and it was like great. It's something that it takes a long time to build up with someone, to have that sort of working relationship. Obviously friendship first.
Yes.
Obviously. Yeah. Because as much as we talk about music, we talk about everything else. We talk about movies and TV shows and just general bullshit that we find on like Instagram. We talk about our lives. We talk about our relationships and stuff too. So that's obviously an important thing that we share that transcends just making music together. So I think that's really, really cool. Shawnee, I want to ask you one last thing.
Yes.
Besides the Sonic Riders, you also have your personal music under @pillowfight_music. That's your
social tag.
That's the social media tag, but it's Pillow Fight Music essentially.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about that and what your plans are?
It's been quiet on the home front, but I've definitely been picking a few tracks that I want to release from the batch I've been producing. But yeah, I mean, I guess the kind of journey with producing, I guess also with the Sonic Riders, we've worked with like so many different types of artists and like styles of music, and
country, pop, R&B, folk.
So, I mean, it's a wide range. So that was the kind of over the years, it's like it's been great to be able to learn and kind of dive into that type of music. And I've always had I always liked kind of electronic music and house music, and I know they're kind of the obvious choice, but like Daft Punk and the kind of classic kind of dance music players out there. And I kind of spawned Pillow Fight Music randomly, just because I've been creating music, as it would be considered Shaun Day music. I even have just the Shaun Day music folder on my hard drive. But I wanted to kind of create like a little identity to it, and
that's cool.
And so I have a current song on there on Spotify. You could search me on Pillow Fight Music on all the streaming platforms, and it's called
What's that song
Letter.
Called?
Love Letter.
Okay.
And planning on releasing some more music. I've been kind of really trying to hone in on some. I've been kind of working on like drum and bass style songs. So I think that's kind of where I'm gravitating towards lately. And then, I kind of want to collaborate with some more people. I have, kind of going back to England. There's a few people, either, friends of my dad's or, maybe someone I met there, just some sort of acquaintance. Like, I think my goal this year, especially with that, Pillow Fight Music, and maybe even the Sonic Writers too, is to work with someone not in the United States, not in California.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool.
Here. Obviously, especially with the way we've been working lately, which is through Zoom and the internet and sending tracks back and forth.
Absolutely possible.
It's very possible, and I kind of did that with with Kyler, and he was doing vocals for this guy out in Germany. And that was one of those I think Sound Better, I think was the site. And but yeah, I helped mix a few of the tracks or something like or record some of the tracks. So like, I just seeing like, oh wow, like you can do this, like you can record pretty much anywhere and send it, through the internet. And I kind of have this interest in like maybe getting some of the Pillow Fight music to kind of go there. Because I would love to do more original
music,
and music on there. So that's kind of nice. That's kind of where that is. So you can follow me at pillowfight_music, and then find me on Pillow Fight Music on the streaming platforms, and then you can find me on Instagram at Shaun Day Music, if you guys want to find me there.
Beautiful. And, look, Shawnee already got the plugs in. Transition right into it. Shawnee, it's been a pleasure. Thank you, buddy, for taking a little time. I know you got the fussy baby. She looks better now, though. I feel like she's not.
She's like eating her hand right now.
She's maybe she's hungry.
Here we go.
Maybe she's hungry. So, thank you again, Shawnee. We're gonna actually hop off and actually work a little bit in just a bit. So I'll see you in a bit. But for those of you listening, thank you so much for checking out the Matty Making Music podcast. You can find me at Matty Making Music on all your socials, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, all that good stuff. We'll post this replay on YouTube so you can check out the video if you want to see how gorgeous and handsome Shaun is, and you can see cute little Penelope as well. And we'll have that on there too. I think that's it. We'll be back next week. I'll have another special guest. I think we'll probably try to make Tuesdays the live podcast day.
Okay.
And then try to upload and release everything by maybe the Friday following. So Tuesday live podcast, and then following that Friday right after, maybe we'll have everything up on the RSS feed. I need to talk to you about getting that all figured out. But until then, this is Matty of Matty Making Music. That's Shaun Day, my partner in crime with the Sonic Writers. This is the end of the podcast. Hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and we will catch all of you later. Bye.
Bye.